I pulled into my driveway in a silver Porsche 911, and for the first time in 27 years, my husband actually looked at me. Not through me. Not past me. At me. His jaw went slack, his coffee mug frozen halfway to his mouth, and I watched him blink 3 times like he was trying to reboot his brain. Funny how $135,000 worth of German engineering can jog a man's memory faster than love ever could. Harold set down his mug on the porch railing, took 4 slow steps down toward the driveway, and just stared. I killed the engine and let the silence sit between us like an uninvited guest. The morning sun bounced off the hood, and I could see my reflection in it, clearer than I'd seen myself in years. I looked good, confident, alive. Everything I'd forgotten I could be. Marjorie, he said, my name sounding foreign in his mouth, like he hadn't spoken it in months. Maybe he hadn't. Where did you get that car? I opened the door and stepped out, my new heels clicking against the concrete. I took my time gathering my purse, adjusting my sunglasses, letting him wait. When I finally looked up at him, I smiled. Not a big smile. Just enough. It's a birthday gift, I said, my voice steady as stone. From someone who finally remembered I existed. His face went pale. I watched the math happening behind his eyes, watched him scramble through his mental calendar, watched the exact moment he realized what he'd forgotten. Again. Only this time, I wasn't crying into a melted birthday cake at a table set for 2. This time, I was standing in front of a Porsche that cost more than his yearly bonus. Have you ever been ignored by someone who once swore they loved you? Tell me in the comments, because this one's for you. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story. The thing about being invisible is that people forget you can see them too. They forget you're taking notes. They forget that quiet doesn't mean stupid and patience doesn't mean permission. Harold forgot all of that. He forgot that the woman who used to wait up for him with warm dinners and warmer smiles was also the woman who balanced his mother's estate, managed every household expense, and never once asked for credit. He forgot I had a brain. He forgot I had options. Most of all, he forgot I had limits. Your birthday was 3 weeks ago, he stammered, taking another step closer. I thought we were going to celebrate this weekend. You thought wrong, I said, walking past him toward the front door. You didn't think at all. I could feel his eyes on my back, feel the weight of his confusion, and something else. Fear, maybe, or respect. Hard to tell the difference when you haven't seen either one in years. I reached the door and paused with my hand on the handle. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. Where did you really get that car, Marjorie? I smiled at the door, at my reflection in the glass, at the woman I'd finally become again. From the woman you forgot. There was a time when Harold looked at me like I'd hung the moon with my own 2 hands. I'm talking about 28 years ago, back when I was a first-year teacher with chalk dust on my skirts and hope in my pocket. He was an assistant manager at a credit union, driving a beat-up Honda, bringing me gas station flowers every Friday. We'd split a pizza and call it a date night. He'd hold my hand across the table like it was made of something precious. I remember our wedding day. Small ceremony, borrowed dress, his mother's tears. Harold whispered promises in my ear during our first dance, promises about forever and partnership and never letting go. I believed every single word. Why wouldn't I? He said them like prayers. He meant them like vows. Or maybe I just needed to believe he did. The early years were simple. We were broke, but we were together. I taught 2nd grade, came home to a tiny apartment that smelled like whatever clearance candle I'd found that week. Harold would get home an hour after me, tired but smiling, and we'd make dinner side by side in a kitchen barely big enough for 1 person. We'd talk about everything. His dreams. My students. The house we'd buy someday. The life we were building brick by brick. But dreams are funny things. Sometimes they grow in directions you didn't plan. Harold's career took off when he hit 35. Promotion after promotion. Bigger office. Bigger salary. Bigger ego. We moved into this house, the one with the porch he's standing on right now, and suddenly I wasn't standing beside him anymore. I was standing behind him, holding his coat, booking his flights, making sure his life ran smooth while mine gathered dust. I kept teaching for another decade, pouring myself into other people's children, because we never had our own. Harold said the timing was never right. Too busy building his career. Too stressed. Too tired. Always too something. I stopped bringing it up around year 15. Stopped bringing up a lot of things. My voice got quieter and quieter until one day I realized I'd gone a whole week without him asking me a single question about my life. The man who once looked at me like I hung the moon now couldn't even tell you what color my eyes were. If you've ever felt unseen in your own home, drop a heart below. You're not alone. I should have known something was ending on my 56th birthday. Maybe I did know. Maybe that's why I tried so hard to make it special, like I could force-feed life back into something that had already flatlined. I spent the whole afternoon cooking his favorite meal. Salmon with that lemon butter sauce he used to beg for. Roasted potatoes. Fresh green beans. I even baked a cake from scratch, chocolate with raspberry filling, the kind that takes 4 hours and dirties every bowl you own. I set the table like we were newlyweds again. White tablecloth I'd been saving. The good china we got as wedding gifts and never used. Candles. 2 wine glasses. Soft music playing from the speaker in the corner. I took a shower, put on makeup, wore the blue dress he'd complimented once 5 years ago. I even sprayed perfume. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. When had I stopped trying? When had he stopped noticing? 6 o'clock. I lit the candles. 6:15. I poured the wine. 6:30. I texted him. Dinner's ready. 6:45. Are you close? 7 o'clock. Nothing. 7:15. I called. Voicemail. 7:30. I called again. This time he picked up. Marjorie, I can't talk right now. I'm at dinner with the Hendersons. Big client. This account could mean everything for the fourth quarter. My hand tightened around the phone. It's my birthday, Harold. Silence. Not the kind where someone's thinking. The kind where someone's already forgotten and is now calculating damage control. Is it today? I thought it was next weekend. I'm so sorry, honey. I'll make it up to you. I promise. Listen, I have to go. They're waiting on me. He hung up. I stood there in my blue dress, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to dead air. The candles flickered. The salmon went cold. The wine sat untouched in 2 glasses that would only ever need one. I looked at the cake, at the single candle I'd stuck in the center, at the table set for a marriage that only one person was still showing up for. I sat down, served myself, ate in complete silence, while tears I refused to acknowledge ran mascara down my face. When I finished, I pulled the cake toward me, lit that single candle, and stared at the flame. My reflection danced in the window. 56 years old, 27 years married, and eating birthday cake alone. I closed my eyes, made a wish, blew out the candle. But it wasn't for him anymore. Ever had a moment that changed everything? Comment yes if you know that feeling. The next morning I met Dora at the cafe on Maple Street. She took one look at my face and ordered me a double espresso without asking. Dora had been my friend since college, the kind of friend who tells you the truth even when it tastes like medicine. She knew about the forgotten birthday before I said a word. She knew about all of them. You look like hell, she said, sliding the coffee across the table. I feel worse than I look. Then you must be dying inside. She leaned back, arms crossed. How long are you going to let him do this to you? I stirred sugar into my coffee, watching it dissolve. Do what? Don't play dumb with me, Marjorie. You're the smartest woman I know, and you're living like you're stupid. When's the last time he took you anywhere? When's the last time he said thank you? When's the last time he acted like you were something other than furniture? The words hit like open-handed slaps. I wanted to defend him, explain that he was just busy, just stressed, just going through a phase. But the excuses tasted stale, even in my head. How many years had I been making excuses? How many birthdays? How many dinners eaten alone? What am I supposed to do? I whispered. Dora leaned forward. Remind him. Remind him of what? That you're not a ghost. That you have value. that you can exist without him just fine, but he should be damn grateful you choose not to. She tapped her finger on the table. Your mother's property. The one upstate. You still own that, right? I nodded. My mother had passed 2 years ago, left me a small piece of land she'd inherited from her parents. Nothing fancy. Just 3 acres with an old cabin Harold had called worthless. Sell it, Dora said. Take that money. I went home that day and pulled out the property papers. Looked at them for an hour. Harold didn't even know I still had them. He told me to sell it right after Mom died, but I'd stalled, some part of me holding on to the last thing that was just mine. Now that hesitation felt like prophecy. I made 3 calls. A real estate agent, a lawyer, an investment advisor Dora recommended. Within 2 weeks, the property sold. $68,000. Not life-changing money, but enough. The investment advisor told me about a tech startup, something risky but promising. I did my research, read articles, studied projections, and then, for the first time in 27 years, I made a decision without asking Harold's permission. I invested every penny. For the first time in 27 years, I made a decision and didn't need to ask permission. Sometimes the first step to freedom is one quiet decision. Would you have done the same? 7 months later, my phone rang at 9 in the morning. The investment advisor's name lit up the screen. My heart jumped. I'd been checking the account weekly, watching the numbers climb slowly, then faster, then so fast I thought the website had glitched. Mrs. Halston, I wanted to be the first to congratulate you. Your shares just hit peak value. The company's being acquired. If you sell now, you're looking at a 215% return. I did the math in my head, then did it again, then grabbed a calculator because my brain refused to believe the numbers. $146,000. From a property Harold called worthless and an investment he never knew existed. I sat down on the kitchen floor and laughed. Just laughed until tears came. Sell, I said. Sell everything. 2 days later, the money hit my account. My private account. The one I'd opened with $100 10 years ago and never told Harold about because he would have called it silly. Now it had 6 figures. I stared at the balance for 20 minutes, watching it sit there like proof that I still knew how to make things grow. I drove to the Porsche dealership on a Tuesday afternoon. Harold thought I was at a book club meeting. I'd stopped going to book club 2 years ago. He never noticed. The showroom smelled like leather and possibility. A salesman approached, polished smile, expensive suit. He probably thought I was lost. Women my age don't usually walk into luxury dealerships alone wearing jeans and a sweater. But I walked right up to the silver 911 sitting in the center of the floor like a sculpture. I want this one, I said. He blinked. Would you like to take it for a test drive first? Discuss financing options. No test drive. No financing. I'm paying cash. His expression shifted. Respect replaced assumption. Yes, ma'am. Let me get the paperwork started. I sat in the car while he processed the sale. Ran my hands over the steering wheel. Breathed in that new car smell. Looked at myself in the rearview mirror. The woman looking back wasn't the same one who'd cried over cold salmon 3 weeks ago. This woman had power. Had choices. Had remembered what it felt like to want something and just take it. The salesman came back with a tablet full of digital signatures. Your husband must be so proud, he said, making small talk while I signed. I looked up at him. Smiled. He doesn't even know I exist. It wasn't the car I bought. It was the version of me I'd lost. Have you ever done something bold just for you? Comment this is my year. I pulled into the driveway at 3 in the afternoon, sunlight turning that silver Porsche into liquid mercury. I didn't rush. Didn't hide. I parked it right in the center where Harold would have to see it the second he came home. Then I sat there with the engine running, windows down, just feeling the power humming beneath me. This wasn't just a car. This was a statement written in steel and speed. Harold's sedan pulled up 20 minutes later. I watched him park on the street because I'd taken his usual spot. Watched him get out, briefcase in hand, tie loosened. Watched the exact moment his eyes landed on the Porsche. He froze. Actually froze mid-step, like someone had hit pause on his entire body. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. I turned off the engine and stepped out, taking my time. Let him see the confidence in my walk. Let him see the smile that wasn't asking for permission or approval. Let him see the woman who'd stopped waiting for him to notice. She was drowning. Marjorie. My name came out like a question. What is this? A car, I said, walking past him toward the house. Silver. 450 horsepower. Handles like a dream. I can see it's a car. His voice climbed an octave. Where did it come from? Did you rent it? Is this some kind of joke? I stopped at the porch steps, turned to face him. He looked smaller somehow. Confused. Like the world had tilted sideways and he couldn't find his balance. Good. Let him feel what I'd felt for 27 years. It's mine. Bought and paid for. Titles in my name. Paid for with what? The question came out sharp. Accusatory. Like I'd committed a crime by having money he didn't control. With money I earned. From property I owned. Through investments I made. I let each sentence land like a stone. You know, all those things I'm apparently too stupid to handle according to you. His face went red, then white, then red again. I never said you were stupid. You didn't have to say it, Harold. You just treated me like it. For years. I climbed another step. But it's funny. The stupid wife just bought a $135,000 car with her own money. The stupid wife didn't need to ask permission. The stupid wife did just fine without you. He stood there in the driveway, briefcase hanging from his hand, staring at me like I was speaking a foreign language. For once in 27 years, Harold didn't have a response ready. Didn't have an excuse. Didn't have anything but shock painted across his face. Where did you really get that car, Marjorie? I opened the front door, paused with my hand on the frame. Didn't turn around. Didn't need to see his face to know I'd just rewritten every assumption he'd made about who I was and what I was worth. From the woman you forgot. Revenge doesn't always need noise. Sometimes it's just peace and silence. Do you agree? The flowers showed up 2 days later. Roses. 2 dozen. The expensive kind from that boutique shop downtown that Harold always said was overpriced. The card read, "Thinking of you. Ash." Like he'd just remembered I existed after 27 years of looking through me. He came home early that Friday. Stood in the kitchen while I made dinner like it was a normal Tuesday, not a tactical operation. I was thinking we could go out this weekend, he said, voice syrupy sweet. That Italian since you spent 27 years making plans that didn't include me. I dropped a pair of socks into the basket. I'm just following your example. He didn't love me again. He just remembered I was valuable. When people only love you when you glow, remember who dimmed your light first. I signed up for an art class at the community center. Wednesdays at 7. Watercolors. The instructor was a woman named Patricia who wore paint-stained overalls and had silver hair down to her waist. She told us on the first day that art wasn't about being good. It was about being brave enough to make something anyway. I painted terribly at first. Colors bled where they shouldn't. Proportions came out wrong. My trees looked like green clouds on sticks. But I kept going, week after week. And slowly something started to happen. The paintings got better. More importantly, I got happier. I'd forgotten what it felt like to learn something new, to be bad at something and not care, to create just for the joy of creating. I made friends. Real friends. Women who asked about my life and actually listened to the answers. Sarah, who'd left her husband last year and was rebuilding from scratch. Linda, whose kids had grown and moved away, leaving her rediscovering who she was beyond being mom. We'd get coffee after class. Talk about everything. They never once made me feel invisible. Harold hated it. I could tell by the way his mouth tightened every Wednesday when I grabbed my art supplies. By the way he'd ask pointed questions about where I was going and who I was seeing, like I needed his approval to leave the house. Another art class, he said one evening, watching me gather my brushes. You've been going for 2 months. Haven't you learned enough? I don't go to learn enough, I said. I go because I want to. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm doing something for myself. Because I enjoy it. Because it makes me happy. Concepts you might want to look up. His face darkened. I don't appreciate the attitude, Marjorie. And I don't appreciate 27 years of being treated like furniture. Guess we're both disappointed. I picked up my car keys. The Porsche keys. Not the minivan keys I'd used for a decade. Don't wait up. I came home at 10:30 to find him waiting in the living room. Arms crossed. Jaw set. Looking like a parent about to ground a teenager who'd broken curfew. We need to talk, he said.
About what?
About what's happening here.
About you.
You're different. You're acting different. I set down my art bag, looked him straight in the eye. You're right. I am different. I'm remembering who I used to be before I spent 3 decades making myself smaller so you could feel bigger. That's not fair. Neither is forgetting your wife's birthday. Neither is 27 years of being taken for granted. Neither is coming home to an empty house every night while you wine and dine clients who mean more to you than I ever did. He stood up. I gave you everything. This house. Financial security. A good life. You gave me a cage, I said quietly, and called it love. I walked past him, headed for the stairs. Caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. Saw a woman with straight shoulders and clear eyes. Saw strength I'd forgotten I had. He wanted a wife. But I became a woman again. If you've ever taken your power back, comment rise. I found the messages 3 weeks later. I wasn't even looking for them. Harold left his laptop open on the kitchen counter while he showered. The screen lit up with a notification. Just a preview. Just enough. Can't wait to see you tonight. Usual place. T. My hand hovered over the trackpad. I could have closed it, walked away, pretended I hadn't seen. But I was done pretending. Done making excuses. Done protecting him from consequences he'd earned. I clicked. Tanya from accounting. 29 years old. Messages going back 18 months. Pet names. Inside jokes. Photos I had to click away from because seeing them hurt in a way I wasn't prepared for. Plans made. Lies told. My birthday. The night he forgot. There it was in black and white. Stuck at home. Wife's birthday. Be there by 8. He'd left me sitting alone with melted candles to meet her. Not for a client. Not for work. For Tanya with the yoga pants and the laugh he probably found refreshing. For someone young enough to make him feel like he wasn't 58 with a mortgage and a wife he'd stopped seeing years ago.
I didn't cry.
Didn't scream. Didn't throw the laptop across the room like I wanted to. Instead, I took photos. Every message. Every photo. Every lie printed in blue text bubbles. Then I closed the laptop and went upstairs to pack. Not everything. Just enough.
Clothes.
Documents. Things that mattered. I'd come back for the rest later with a lawyer and a locksmith. I worked methodically, calmly, like I was preparing for a trip instead of an exit. Because that's what this was. Not an ending. A departure. From a life that had stopped fitting years ago, but I'd kept wearing anyway because I'd forgotten I had other options. I left the printed messages on his pillow. Every single one. Stacked neatly with a note on top written in my teacher handwriting. You'll be too busy remembering your mistakes. I changed the locks that afternoon while he was at work. Called a locksmith I found online, paid cash, watched him install new deadbolts on every door. The clicking of those locks sliding into place sounded like freedom, like doors closing on one life so another could finally open. I was in the living room, boxing up photos, when I heard his car pull into the driveway. Heard his footsteps on the porch. Heard his key scrape against the new lock. Scrape again. Again. Then silence. Then pounding. Marjorie. Marjorie. Open this door. I kept packing. Wrapped a frame in newspaper. Set it in the box. His voice got louder. More desperate. The man who'd forgotten I existed suddenly couldn't handle being locked out of my space. Karma moves silently, but it always arrives. Do you believe in karma? The divorce took 6 months. Harold fought it at first, called me irrational, said we could work it out, promised to change. Same promises he'd made on our wedding day 28 years ago. Only this time I knew better than to believe them. My lawyer was a woman named Rebecca who wore power suits and no wedding ring. She took one look at my evidence and smiled like a shark who'd just spotted blood in the water. He's going to regret underestimating you, she said. She was right. Harold thought I'd be easy. Thought I'd settle for whatever scraps he threw my way out of gratitude or fear or habit. But I'd stopped being afraid the day I drove home in that Porsche. Stopped being grateful for crumbs when I'd spent years baking the whole cake. I wanted what I'd earned, what I'd built, what was mine by right of showing up for 28 years while he'd checked out. The house. Half his retirement. Alimony that made his lawyer's eye twitch. I didn't ask for more than I deserved, but I didn't settle for less either. Rebecca made sure of that. Every forgotten birthday. Every missed anniversary. Every lie documented in text messages. It all added up in ways Harold hadn't anticipated. He showed up at the final hearing looking older. Defeated. Like he'd finally realized what he'd lost when he stopped paying attention. He tried to catch my eye across the courtroom. I looked straight through him. Gave him the same treatment he'd given me for years. Funny how much that seemed to hurt him now that the shoe was on the other foot. The judge signed the papers. Made it official. I walked out of that courthouse a free woman with a settlement check in my purse and my whole life ahead of me. Harold walked out alone, heading to an apartment he'd rented near Tanya's place. I heard through Dora they'd already broken up. Turns out when you're not the forbidden fruit anymore, you're just regular fruit. Sometimes rotten. I drove home in my Porsche, windows down, radio up, hair whipping in the wind. The house was mine now.
Really mine.
No shared space. No walking on eggshells. No making myself small. Just me and four walls that finally felt like home instead of a prison I'd volunteered for. I pulled into the driveway, same spot I'd parked that first day 7 months ago. But everything was different now. I was different.
Stronger. Clearer.
Free in ways I'd forgotten were possible. I sat in the car for a minute, engine running, just breathing it all in. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Art class tonight. You coming? I smiled.
Typed back.
Wouldn't miss it. I got out of the car, grabbed my purse, walked toward my front door with my head high and my heart lighter than it had been in decades. Behind me, the Porsche sat gleaming in the driveway. A reminder. A symbol. Proof that quiet justice doesn't need revenge. It just needs patience and the courage to finally choose yourself. Harold forgot my birthday. But I'll never forget the day I remembered myself. Never beg to be remembered by someone who forgot you on purpose. Invest in yourself. Your glow will reveal who truly loved you. Quiet justice isn't revenge. It's peace that makes noise without saying a word. If this story touched you, hit that like button right now. Share it with someone who needs strength today. Someone who feels invisible. Someone who's forgotten they have power. And subscribe to this channel because we're just getting started with stories of quiet justice, real strength, and people who chose themselves when everyone else chose to forget them. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss the next story. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me your story. Inspire someone else who's reading. Because your voice matters. Your story matters. You matter. And I'll see you in the next one.